Hello there, I'm Big Alias, and this video is probably about to be immediately invalidated. So, I mean, the news just keeps moving so quickly at the moment, but I want to preface this by saying, I know this is very dynamic, I know things are going to move around and change a lot, so what I want you to do is picture what I'm saying as if it's more of a notion than something that's happening currently, despite the fact that I probably will sprinkle in some, like, you know, current day effects, cause and effects, and opinions and what have you into what I'm saying. Do please bear in mind that I know it's dynamic and I know it changes a lot, but yes, we're talking about the TikTok ban, which apparently I'm already reading is being lifted for some people. I saw a very eerie message saying, oh yeah, President Trump is working on it. I'm in the UK, okay, I don't get these messages, but yeah, so President Trump is working on this as we speak, and it was very, like, authoritarian, very scary, like, great president is working on this for you, you know, you almost expect to hear it out of a propaganda speaker, but yes, Biden enacted a ban, or introduced a ban to TikTok in the US unless they sold to an American company. Trump is currently working on getting it back, and at this point probably honestly has got it back for people. And I'm here to tell you that this is not definite, but I want to try to make you understand why this was done. And I'm not defending it. I'm not a big, like, huge Biden fan who defends every decision he makes. I don't like Biden. I liked Obama. I thought Obamacare was great, but Biden, yeah, I'm not his biggest fan. He's the lesser of two evils for sure, but he's also a glorified sock puppet. He's a glorified jizz sock that you find at the back of a teenager's wardrobe. I mean, he's just like nothing. But I get it. I do kind of get what was being done here, or at least what was trying to be done. Do I agree with the decision? I don't know. I mean, I don't use TikTok myself, so I don't really have too much of an opinion on it, to be honest with you. I don't know what inherent value it creates, but I know things via osmosis about the app, and I'm going to have to, like, dig into those pockets in order to give you some information there. So why has it happened? Why was this even introduced to begin with? Because it feels spiteful. It's just like, we hate you and we're going to ban TikTok. But of course there's more to it than that. And I want to clear the air. I've heard a lot of, like, theories. I think the prevailing theory at the moment right now is that the government doesn't want the Chinese spying on us and getting our data and storing all of that information. And I can understand that fear, and, you know, maybe that's the case, but I don't think so. But I can understand that fear. I really can. And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, on a surface level, yeah, it makes sense, right? You don't want them taking your data and storing that and keeping that. That's a little bit scary. But I think this is a causality of the fact that we've been very much, like, our opinions of online security and safety and what have you have been very much muddied by the fact that there's a new tech billionaire in a seat in a court once a month, what feels like once a month, where they're sat there and they're not able to answer questions, they're not giving us the answers we want, they're dodging questions, etc, and then some 60-year-old will just see that, get online and be like, here's what they're doing. See, here's what they don't tell you. They're taking our information and they're selling it to advertisers, and they're using that information to find targeted ads so that we pay attention to the ads. It's like, yeah, I know. We all know this isn't like some grand revelation. You know that little bit at the bottom that all these companies were forced to put in, where you have to allow the cookies? Says it there, yeah, it's just right there. Tells you, everyone knows this is what it's for. But, you know, it's a cause and effect of, like, this sort of very muddied water we have with security, online security at the moment, and the fact that we're living in a very, like, I told you so society, and people are sort of always trying to jump the gun on that and be the people who are, like, there on the ground level and, like, see, they're keeping your data. Cookies, I don't even know this, are used to keep your data. Yes, I know, Mildred. I know everyone knows it, but unfortunately they all use it, so there's nothing we can do about it, you know? This is the way the internet works. It's also an issue with the fact that, honestly, in terms of internet security, there's a bit of like very intangible, I want to say like grey area at the moment, that's very difficult to work with. We're asking the wrong questions. We have the wrong people asking the wrong questions. These people are far out of date in terms of information that they have, because we keep hiring people over the age of fucking 60 to ask questions about cybersecurity. A lot of the questions are questions that can't be answered. A lot of the questions are questions that would put either the company or the people using the service in danger if those questions are answered. A lot of the questions people shouldn't have to answer, and a lot of the questions, yes, should be answered and are being avoided where they, shouldn't be. For example, biometric data. Yes, scary. Oh my god, they're keeping the data of our face, what our faces look like. Ew. Well, TikTok would do that for those fun face filter things that they have. And yes, they have to keep a small amount of data of your face there, because it can't work in absolute real time. It has to have something to log into in order to use the filter itself. And plus, faces don't stay perfectly still. They can't. So you have to store some sort of data right there in terms of that in order to, use the filter. If you don't want that, then okay, we'll get rid of the biometric data. But unfortunately, not everyone can agree on that. So it kind of comes down to what TikTok want to do there. But that's why that information is stored. There's a lot of issues with stuff like keychaining and using Face ID, again, in terms of biometric data. Yes, it's stored, but it's stored locally, and they're not using that to harvest your information. Plus, this brings on the big point, the big issue, which is, they're all doing it. They all do it. TikTok are not the only people to be harvesting this data. And again, we have Mark Zuckerberg in court as well, but that's, it's an American company. So it comes down to, but we don't want the Chinese people, keeping all of this stuff in a database. And so it's okay for, an American company to keep it all in that. It's very odd. So what I find odd about but we don't want Chinese people keeping it, it's scary, it's a foreign entity, is that you're not at war with China. You're not, are you at war? The US isn't at war with China, is it? Also, they're not the only foreign entity collecting data. There are companies across the world, collecting that data. Sony collects lots of data on you. Right now I'm going to upload this video to Google, which is an American-owned company. Well, YouTube, owned by Google, which is an American-owned company. That's a foreign entity. You're going to be collecting my data. It's almost as if, it's a very sort of xenophobic viewpoint that but they speak a different language to me and it's scary. But you have no cause for concern. What would they do with that data, unless, of course, you were at war with them and they were trying to do something with that? Of course, there are always companies who are doing nefarious things, but TikTok wouldn't be unique in that sense, and plus they've been taken to court in order to unearth whether they are doing anything nefarious, unlike a lot of other entities, and they haven't come through with anything nefarious so far. They're not trying to take your data in that way, so I don't understand what the issue is. You're not at war with China. They have no reason to use your biometrics or any of your data for any purposes that any other company inside the US would want it for either. So why are they doing it? Well, in my opinion, personally, I think this comes down to something that people are just not very good at, which is visualizing the economy of a country. Think of it like a big piggy bank, big pile of money like that scene from Breaking Bad, just a big stack of cash. And when you think of it like that, you have a certain amount of money, you have a reserve of money. I know it can fluctuate and stuff like that, but you do have to think of the amount of currency and money that you have. In this example, in the US, you have that amount of money, right? And that's why it's such an issue when you have billionaires, because they have big chunks of that money and you need money, and they're just anyway. I digress. But yeah, you have this big pile of money. The issue is TikTok Shop, I think it's the TikTok shop, right? Is what it is. And I have checked on this. So from what I understand, anyone can create a business on TikTok shop, and there's a lot of economy in terms of drop shipping and independent businesses. Businesses across the globe, like across the world, everyone's got their own thing going on. Everyone's got their thing. Businesses everywhere across the globe. And when you have that, you have like just billions of people taking that money out of the US, and it's never recouping. It's not coming back. It's not refreshing and returning to the country. Other than in terms of things like import taxes and stuff like that. And hey, Trump's putting these tariffs on, and increasing the import tax. How interesting! What a coincidence. But yeah, other than in terms of VAT and duty, in terms of imports and stuff like that, you have all of these like internationally homegrown owned businesses, and it's billions that are just leaving the US via the means of the TikTok store and going to other countries. And you can't really regulate that when that app is owned by another country, which is why you could say things like, well, what about eBay, or is Craigslist still a thing? Etsy, things like that. But yeah, these are US owned companies. That's why it becomes an issue, because you can regulate stuff like that. You can keep an eye on what this business is doing, but when it's a Chinese business, it's just like, hey, this money's going to this person, this money's going to, and we've taken, let's say, 20 billion out of the US fund this month, or over whatever time span, and we just spread it across the globe. That was our money, and it's gone. It's not going back into circulation. And when we think about regular commerce and national trade, and I'm not an expert in this, but when you think of it like that, it's just money leaving this hand and going into this hand. But that hand is US, and the money stays there. And eventually, that money will find its way to someone else, which is why wealth distribution is an issue, because it inevitably finds its way to the next of kin. Yeah, it's interesting how they can acknowledge that money going into international waters is an issue, but wealth distribution in terms of the country that you're speaking about is not an issue. How fascinating. But yeah, that's what I think the problem is. The money is leaving the country and it's not there anymore. And I think that's a problem. You give it over to a US company, and then that US company, you can keep an eye on what they're doing and you can regulate it, but that's just not happening in terms of the TikTok store. That's what I think. That's my thought. But what I can tell you is it probably doesn't have anything to do with the Chinese tracking your data. I won't worry too much about that, but I don't know. When Trump brings that back, it's like, well, to be honest, there's going to be billions leaving your country and entering other countries. And in terms of like global wealth distribution, that's great. But in terms of everything else, yeah, you kind of needed that money. I don't know. Food for thought. Anyway, I'll see you all later.
The PlayStation is only $149, and you can also get leading titles.